Okay, so here we go. We're going to talk about COVID recovery. COVID we-covery. Not recovery, play on the words for sure. Shout out to one of my clients this week who talked about we-covery, like as in relationship recovery. Coming back to our senses, moving across that bridge to 1 + 1 = 3, and out of half plus half equals 1. So in the context of a relationship, it's we-covery, but I want to say in the context of COVID, we're going to get better by bringing the warmth, by doing a bunch of things, really honoring our nervous systems and really bringing in even some more compassion to our lives, but also learning how to be together even at a distance, right? So just because we are physically distancing doesn't mean we're socially distancing. It's the social distancing that is killing us. And so how do we do that when our nervous systems are going off and telling us threat, COVID, he's going to make me, I'm going to get sick, I'm going to maybe die, like it's a death threat. Our nervous system's doing what it needs to be doing, huh? It needs to be responding to the threat on the outside the way it has. This is millions of years of evolution. And I'm not saying that's easy, and there's some tools here that we're going to talk about, but in the grand scheme of things, we need to learn how to befriend and honor and allow our nervous system to do what it's supposed to do. I mean, our liver is doing what it needs to do every day, unconsciously, right? You're not saying, okay, liver, get to work. Lungs, same thing. Digestive system, nervous system. Yeah, so let's talk about how we can recover, how we can recover and rediscover some of these, perhaps the collateral beauty in amongst all the real possibility on channel 1 of death. Yeah, so I'm not trying to gloss this over. I'm not trying to be, Mr. Spiritual. I'm trying to say that there's a weave between all of this that we perhaps need to understand, because we're all being initiated into a deeper world, a deeper way of being with each other. And that perspective of COVID recovery is deliberate. So the point of view, the perspective I want to share with you is that if we're going to go from island A to island B, as my friend says, we need to really understand the boat that we're going to get. Are we going to swim? Are we going to jump on a raft? Are we going to get a speedboat? Are we going to sail? And that distance, how far is it? We don't know how far that distance is, actually. Island B is sort of out there. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, but we're not there yet. And then there's other variants coming in. So we need to understand how is it that we can work together no matter what comes, no matter what the threat. Because we're certainly learning anything is that if nothing at all, that we, the path, the means, the antidote to threat of COVID or a virus or death is that we need each other. We're connected. And so the real definition of us being true human beings and a real way of honoring our common humanity is to understand that we're all vulnerable. We discover freedom when we realize we're all vulnerable. Nobody's not vulnerable. Certainly COVID has showed us that. So we're all vulnerable and we need each other. That's a true definition, in my mind anyway, of what humanity is and what our common humanity is. And when we recognize that, then we set ourselves free, we set other people free. So this perspective of we-covery is that we're going to do this together. Together we can. Together we are more powerful than being isolated and put back into our old anxiety, our old traumas and whatnot, that we can actually move together despite a physical distance. We can do a lot of spiritual, social, emotional connectivity. And so the perspective is that together we can. Yes, that's what I want to share with you today. We're vulnerable. We are part of, and we need each other. We need each other for health and vitality, to feel connected, to feel warmth, to calm our nervous systems down. And so our job, my suggestion is in this newsletter is that there's some suggestions about how it is that we can bring the warmth. So we need to learn how to bring the warmth, because there are people that can't right now, or who are really suffering terribly as a result of COVID, or as a result of isolation, or as a result of COVID, isolation, mental health, and trauma, and poverty issues, and race issues, and all sorts of class issues of socioeconomic and all the rest of it. So we, as individuals who are healthy, who have access to perhaps a different level of care and understanding and cognitive reasoning, we can do a lot to bring the warmth every day and be that person that you know you are inside, that you want to be long into your elder years, not your older years, your elder years. So I'm rambling a bit, but I wanted to just tee that up. We're doing COVID recovery. Okay, so we-covery looks like the first thing we're going to get good at in order to bring the warmth, in order to come out of this threat that we have, is to just literally, without going into all the science, you just need to just start adopting a longer exhalation. Just start bringing a longer exhalation. If you breathe in 1, and then breathe out 2. If your breathing is normal, 2-2, bring in a 2, out a 3. What does it do? It calms the nervous system down. It calms the fight, flight, freeze nervous system that we have built into our system for millions of years of evolution. So the longer exhalation, my favorite is a friend of mine years ago when I was starting business. He used to sit down beside me. We would do the numbers, or we would look at marketing, or we'd be looking at the business plan. And he would always, he learned this in his MBA program, that he would always take when it got to a stressful point, he would just go, I call it puffer breathing. You breathe in and you let a little bit out very slowly, but you've got the resistance. It feels good to have resistance from your cheeks and your mouth pushing against the breath trying to get out. And again, it's a longer exhalation. So one more time. Three of those. Change your life. Will absolutely bring you back into we-covery, so you can then bring that to, and of course you model this, other people will do the same thing. Okay, you get called a pufferfish, but so what? What's wrong with that? Second thing is, what we need to do is allow some curiosity in about our nervous systems. We need to be grateful that our nervous system, we need to be grateful that we have fight, flight, freeze, fine, fake, maybe part of freeze. We have these, like, we're still here. We know, okay, alert. Our system says, okay, with a threat coming in, alert. We need to respond, and our body automatically responds. Like, that's a beautiful thing. It's not a bad thing. Okay, so if we don't know how to work with it, it can create a lot of anxiety and depression, for sure, but this is part of what we're talking about here today. So allowing curiosity is, okay, I'm being curious. Okay, so I need to allow the body to do what it needs to do and be curious about, okay, it's taking care of me. It's learning how to evolve even through this threat. And it's doing exactly what it needs to do in order for us to survive, right? It's not about thrival, that's the prefrontal cortex, but the old brain, fight, flight, freeze, fake, fine, denial, everything's fine. Yeah, it's not, No, we need to say, yeah, I'm having a tough day. And we need to just allow our system to do what it needs to do, be curious about it. And then we can start to then wonder, okay, so maybe with some deeper exhalations, and maybe with going for a walk, and maybe going to a social or a physical distance walk with a friend. It's physical distance. It's not social distance. It's physical distance that we need to have. We need to be respectful of that. But that doesn't mean we don't need to be spiritually, socially, emotionally, hermetically connecting, right? We need to work harder that way. And so, warm eyes, we talked about that from behind a mask. We've talked about a bunch of different things that you can do, but this is just a deepening of that. I want to call it like it's an intimacy response to COVID. It's a we-covery. It's we can do this together, huh? So we need to be curious about also, when we calm down, okay, okay, there's nothing right about COVID. There's nothing right about a death threat. But the second question can be, and I wonder what's right about this time. And I'll tell you, my private practice is filled with people who are just discovering what's right about it is that it's pushing them into dealing with their anxiety that's been pushing them around for 20 years since they were 14 when they had a traumatic event. They're dealing with depression, which they've just disappeared into antidepressants, and now they need to get off the antidepressant because it's not really working, and the depression is still there. So there are gifts of depression, right? So COVID can bring actually people, by distancing us by physically distancing us, can actually bring us, ironically, paradoxically, much more closer together because we start to value each other a lot more. Yeah? So that's what Buddha did. You see my Buddha, big fat Buddha, like he just got channel 1, nothing right. Channel 2, wow, what's right about this? Channel 3, he was able to just move in and out of all those worlds and be able to smile, because the truth is that this is where we grow and stretch with all this uncertainty and threat and these dark nights of the soul. Not in any way wishing that upon you. And what I am clear about is that if this is our time to do some work, let's do some work. Let's dig in. Let's get the shovel out. Let's find our Buddha nature to be able to push back and bring the warmth and bring the longer exhalation. So, and the other part of this COVID thing I want to say is that it's bringing a lot of the complexity to our life. We're starting to realize it's not just black and white. It's not just Democrat, Republican. It's not just you and me. It's not just male and female. We're starting to realize the plurality of life, but also the complexity, and also with that diversity and appreciation of that. So many upsides to this, but I want to keep going with our list. So there we have it. Longer exhalation, allowing more curiosity and gratefulness in that our bodies are functioning. Thank God, we're going to get a shot, and then it's going to mobilize, we're going to get an immunization shot, and then the body's going to develop some, that's such a cool thing. And then we'll be able to be more resistant to that particular flu, and it turns out other flus. Warmth, warm eyes, bringing the warm eyes, the presence, and the compassion. Can we do this? Of course we can. This is what is going to help your brother, your neighbor, your family, your partner, is that we have to get really good, because we got a freaking mask on, to be able to bring the warmth. We all know instinctively how to do that. We know how to survive. We've got a fight, flight, freeze nervous system, but we also have a nervous system that allows us to bring compassion and warmth and presence when that's needed. And that also cascades through the system, right? So both of those things are true. We're built to thrive. We're also built to survive. Survival strategy is just got a little bit more time doing that, so it's a little more potent at times, but we still have this. We know since the get-go we've been able to bring some warmth and compassion when we see suffering. And so this, more than anything, we can mobilize, of course, with good, healthy self-care, which is the next one, compassionate self-care, where we tend to what we need to tend to, so that we can then unhook our suffering and bring the warmth and presence and compassion to other people. So being compassionate with self, learning to say, okay, like that self-soothing kind of talk that we need to have. Okay, this has been hard. Okay, let's just take the night out. It's okay, I had too much to drink, because I was just really stressed out. I need to be more forgiving. Okay, we can start again, and the next couple of 3 nights we don't have to drink at all, and we can just be a little bit more. Maybe I just need to blow out, and like that. So that's what I did last night. 2 big glasses of red wine. Woke up a little funky. Anyway, so learning to be compassionate, learning to be loving with self, tending, I put down deepen and tend, and the compassionate self-care CSC is compassionate self-care. The deepening and tending, like we need to tend to ourselves like we would tend to a brand new babe. That's what my teachers taught me. It's like if you could only but treat yourself as a brand new baby, the care and the tenderness and despite the threats around, you would just quickly move into, oh my God, look at this. And you would bring everything, that fierce gentleness, that tenderness, that love. You would love unafraid. You would love this little being that's inside of you. That's perhaps what we're being pushed into, right? To deepen that. True meditation, that somebody say the other day that they're just so exhausted from going out and being in the day that they just come home and they just flop on the bed and they don't sleep, they just rest. That's true meditation. True meditation, not trying to get to different states, although it can be useful trying to get to strategic places in our altered consciousness channels. But true meditation, the rest, the deep rest is what we really need. And of course, the morning hut practice during the week, of course, is one of the best things to just rest. That's all we do is rest into it. Well, actually, that's not always. We do that after we ask a question. What is the true value of a relationship, for instance? Who are we today to make a difference in the thick of everything, right? How is it that I can bring more beauty in the thick of everything to my partner, the one that's closest to me? So you get a question, then we get a story. Of course you have to have a story. So I tell a story. So the first 3 minutes is the question and a story that illustrates the question, and then we just rest into the answer. We just rest into, and at the end of it, so the whole thing is about 20 minutes, 21.37 minutes. And then you're good to go, or keep going with your own meditation. Just keep resting into that depth and tenderness and presence that is always there for us, waiting, always abiding in all ways, never not there, every moment of our lives, but we're just moving so quickly. So part of our we-covery is encouraging each other to just rest into that natural state of ours, which is just recovery. And so much research now is showing that recovery is the most important thing. In fact, the most productive people on the planet are the ones that only worked for 4 to 6 hours a day. Those that worked 8 hours a day were half as productive. In our history, all musicians and scientists and business people that really were incredibly, at the end of their lives, incredibly productive, were the ones that actually worked 4 to 6 hours a day instead of 8 to 10, or the crazy 14 to 16 hour days that I used to do regularly. Those were a quarter productive. The ones in the middle were half productive, but the people that really walked and rested and did their creative work in the morning, and more on that later. But anyway, they were the most productive. So it's a ruse, and it's a time to reset. Here we have spring. We're resurrecting ourselves. This is our job. We're coming back to our Buddha nature. We're coming back to our Christ nature. We're coming back to our nature, our true nature, which is so beautifully mimicked around us at this time. And the beautiful new green shoots of springtime, as T.S. Eliot calls it. No, E.E. Cummings calls it. Everything that is yes. Do you remember that great poem? That's where we're going. And Easter, of course, is that. Yeah. So grounding. When we're in fight, flight, or freeze, we're up on our toes. We're ready to dash. We're ready to sprint. So us putting our feet way on the ground, taking our socks off even rocking back and forth or side to side really starts to ground us into calming the nervous system down. Now, all of these things are about calming the nervous system down. And so where there's, where I wrote this down here, where there's, whole feet on the ground, there's wholeheartedness. Why? Because we can move from this deep, earth of stillness and rest and natural great peace and presence. We can bring this now open up into our hearts, and that opens us further. So we end up with good self-care, strong back, soft belly, open heart. Yeah? Strong back, soft belly. Look at that soft belly there. And open heart. So that is part of what we're being invited into also to do for each other. That's the we recovery business. A couple more things, senses, any kind of senses. If you can put on some smell or you play some music, all of a sudden you can snap out of it again. Your nervous system calms down because now the nervous system, all the senses, they allow the 5 + 1. Well, the alchemists would say there's another 6 that are invisible, but these senses are allowed. If you just play music or put a scent on or actually imagine even a lemon, you heard this the other day, just imagine a fresh cut lemon coming in and touching your tongue. You would salivate, you would feel that bitterness, you would snap out of the nervous system would start eventually to calm down. So some little tricks of the trade using this body, mind, soul system to really help us we cover senses. And then the pause power. What's pause power? Pause is like between stimulus, between the threat and the reaction. If we can take a pause, if we can just pause for a second, therein lies our freedom, therein lies our glory, therein lies our choices that align with our true values, with our Buddhic values. I'm not Buddhist, and I'm not a naturalist, and I'm not a Christian, and I'm not a Jain, but I'm all of those, and that's a sort of very natural, organic, just kind of spirituality that allows me to align myself with that, so that I can honor all people and diversity, the plurality of everything, but also to really come back to, that just pause. In the horns of a dilemma, pause, right? That's what we do. And that's where Viktor Frankl said, it's where we get all the meaning and the freedom and the choice that's available. So pause power, it's a secret power. Number 9, forgiveness, allowing us, okay, drank too much, okay, puppy cakes. Maybe we needed that. That was a long week, a lot of intense sessions. Maybe we needed to just have a little blowout. Thank God it's not what I used to do. And then the last part, of course, is always, which kind of contextualize all of this. It's always about leaning in with fierce gentleness. That allows us to love unafraid, to really be ourselves in the thick of adversity and challenge and all the COVID stuff that is we're still not sure. We're not out of the dark yet. So we need to learn how to recover, take advantage of springtime coming, and let's resurrect ourselves and push back a bit so that we can, observe the distance, but also really be close. That sounds paradoxical, and it is, but we really can do that. Any questions about any of this, email me, call me. If you need some support, of course, with, by you coming in to work with some of the anxiety that's coming up, of course I'm here. But if you also want to just join me in this deep rest that allows us to respond with healthy boundaries, healthy yeses, and really resolve no's, then that also can be a very judicious, smart thing to do right now. Anything else on here? I think we covered it, right? If there's one thing out of here I want you to walk away with, just start increasing your exhalation. Just make it a little bit longer all day long. It'll just keep you out of that window of, there's a window in here of kind of natural rhythm where we are thriving with stimulus and response. But when we get triggered, we go offline a bit. So the longer exhalation allows us to stay in this window of sanity. Does that make sense? Yeah. So like that. Any questions? Give me a shout. Thank you for showing up and having a look at this. And we'll see you next month. Bye for now.